Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from Mauritius. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, where we will be exploring an intriguing question: Are virtual assets the key to offshoot the Mauritian global business sector 2.0? To help us unpack this, we have the pleasure of introducing Mindex, represented by Jessica Naga, their CEO, and Toshak Gopee on the panel here today as their head of projects. Thank you both for joining us today, and our warmest welcome once again as our MAP's newest members. We're truly thrilled to have you on board. For those of you in the room who may not be familiar with us, the Mauritius Africa FinTech Hub is a collaborative network of organizations driving innovation and growth of the FinTech sector in and from Mauritius. My name is Benazir Saidu, CEO of the Mauritius Africa FinTech Hub, and I have the honor of hosting and moderating today's session. While we wait for a few more participants to log in, I would like to kick things off with a quick poll to get a sense of your interest here today. So I will call participants and attendees to put in their responses in. What aspect of virtual assets are you the most curious to explore today? It's about learning what virtual assets are, gaining insight maybe into what an asset ecosystem looks like, regulations, business opportunities, investment. What is it about the world of virtual assets that you are the most curious about? So I welcome you all to jot in your answers here. As you share your responses, let me tell you a bit more about Mindex. This fintech company, licensed by the Financial Services Commission, delivers a comprehensive financial infrastructure designed for issuing, trading, swapping, storing, and managing all types of real and virtual assets. With their deep expertise in this field, Jessica and Toshak will walk us through the opportunities that Mauritius global business sector can unlock in this emerging ecosystem. Quickly as well, go over some rules for the questions and the Q&A side. You're all welcome to use the Q&A function, which is down on your left of the screen, which you can do so anonymously. We'll take all the questions at the end of the presentations. You can also choose to ask your questions orally. Just raise your virtual hand and we'll unmute you. Of course, I ask everyone to keep the discussions respectful and on topic to maximize the value of this session for everyone. I can already see some answers coming in. We can see that our audience is most interested in discovering potential business opportunities for assets. Now, without further ado, Jessica, I now leave the floor to you. Please tell us more about Mindex, what you do, the problem you're tackling, and the opportunities you're looking to unlock for the market. Over to you, Jessica.
Benazir, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for us to be here today. I am Jessica Naga. I apologize about that. Just give me 1 second. I'll just quit this. All right. So I am the CEO. I'm one of the founders of Mindex and the CEO, and Toshak is with me today. He's our head of projects. I will start by giving you an overview of what we have built with Mindex, headquartered in Mauritius. So we are a regulated virtual asset and digital securities ecosystem. And we believe that with a complete ecosystem that now exists, we can help spin off a Mauritian global business sector 2.0. So just to talk about our licenses quickly, we've got, as you can see on the slide, a securities exchange license. We're the third securities exchange of Mauritius, but we are also able to do retail, sophisticated, high net worth, all of it, but also retail. We're a virtual asset marketplace, which is colloquially, I'll say, a crypto exchange, but it allows us to do primary listings of ITOs, initial token offerings, of any real world asset, such as commodities, carbon credits, which is very wide. We are custodian as well, a digital custodian. We're the first digital custodian of Africa. And then we've got a clearinghouse, CDS, Clearing, Depository, and Settlement. So a little bit about how the whole thing works. So we've got 4 licenses, as you can see at the top, all held within a holding company. And the reason for the structure is because it allows us to create the most cost-efficient structure that will benefit ultimately our clients in terms of where we list, custody, and clear and settle. So we can do STOs, ITOs, custody, secondary listings, cryptocurrency exchange, and private placements, so technical listings of tokens and securities. So the infrastructure works like this. Under one roof, you have all asset types, and that will allow very innovative possible structuring. So you could have one company listing various types of assets within their own ecosystem to make, for example, their capital raise the most efficient and bankable possible. And then ultimately, it allows possible atomic swaps, which is a big word to say you're swapping an asset for another. So complete efficiency, total disintermediation. It's not always going to be like this, but it is possible. And with large volume, it could very well become the reality of the future. And it's opening route for all types of investors, including retail, in an African market where there is very little liquidity and secondary trading. Having a larger number of investors is necessary, not just interesting. Best quality assets, we say that because we have a very stringent listing committee policy. We want to list the best assets. We work with the biggest players, big four players, big law firms, corporate finance people, to get the best possible structure, therefore creating the best asset and most investable asset. We say non-stop efficiency, so 24/7 trading, very much like the crypto trading market has been for a decade now, except that now we add laws and regulations around it, securities law, virtual asset laws, custody laws, just to make sure or try as much as possible to create the safest environment for all stakeholders. We are also insured, and we use the best third-party players, regulated as well, to try to provide the most secure environment for our clients and stakeholders and investors. So our solutions are as follows. So we would allow investment, custody, exchange, and pay and exit. So Mindex chose to go the full regulated way, and I think today we are proven that this is the way to go. The world is going towards full regulation. This allows us more easily to be banked, to allow on-ramp and off-ramp, and as our volume increases, the efficiency and the cost will increase even more. You can see how the ecosystem works in a glance. So we can take on any types of investors, governments, retail, public institutions, or sophisticated investor. They are onboarded through a system. We are a regulated player, so people have to go through our KYC process to be onboarded. We recommend that wallets that are going to hit our ecosystem before transactions are whitelisted. We work with the biggest players for due diligence internally, both internally and externally, to make sure that we protect not only the company, its stakeholders, but also the jurisdiction as a whole. In the middle, you can see how it works. So you can buy, store, sell, or swap all kinds of assets, be it currencies, securities, real-world assets. And then you can exit through banking rails into fiat, into central bank currencies, dollar, euro, GBP, MUR, whatever. So Mindex is also now able to service about 18 African currencies. So we can take African currencies into USDT and then off-ramp. So we can exchange fiat into crypto, crypto into fiat, and crypto to crypto. So we're going to look at the problem that we're seeking to address, and I will leave the floor to Toshak.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jessica. Hello, everyone. I'm Toshak Gopee. So I'm the head of projects at Mindex. Very happy to be talking to all of you today. So diving into the topic of today about the global business sector of Mauritius. As we all know, it's a pillar of the Mauritian economy. Lots of jobs, contributes to the GDP and lots of tax revenues. But at the same time, we see a number of challenges cropping up, a number of issues that the industry is currently facing. And we believe that our offshore sector is currently standing at crossroads, right? So if we just take a look into quickly what are the key challenges that we see at the moment, we see brain drain, so lots of young talents choosing to work in other jurisdictions other than Mauritius. We see competition risk, the advent of artificial intelligence, and as well as GIFT City in India that could represent major competition risks for our offshore sector. We see an over-reliance on tax optimization as opposed to real value addition. So this is where we believe the virtual asset sector could be a potential game changer here. And we can get into this into more detail a bit later. In terms of coming back to the challenges, we also see that we are increasingly becoming a back office cost center. We also see a high compliance cost due to OECD and FATF adherence, as well as the recently enacted the Corporate Climate Responsibility Levy. So these are the key challenges that we see that the offshore sector is currently facing. But on the other hand, we also see a number of opportunities, right? In terms of opportunities, specifically from a Mindex perspective, we look at the volume of crypto trading happening. So on the screen, there are two charts that you can see. On the left one is the trading volume of cryptocurrencies for a period of 24 hours. So within 24 hours, $202 billion of crypto is traded. And that was a couple of months ago. And even today, this volume is almost, those numbers are still relevant. So in the volume of trading crypto happening, on the right of the screen, you can see the market capitalization, the total volume of cryptocurrencies, $2.32 trillion of market capitalization. So this, we believe, could be an interesting angle that we could start exploring. We could potentially tap into that crypto liquidity and see how we could connect with our local offshore sector. Again, in terms of opportunities in the world, we see a global virtual assets wave. We see that major economies, including the European Union, Japan, the UK, Switzerland, Singapore, and the UAE, they have a regulated virtual asset sector, same like Mauritius. Mauritius was among the first jurisdictions in the world to have a regulated virtual asset space, the VITOS Act. Second, we also see the FATF has issued the global binding standards to prevent the misuse of virtual assets for money laundering and terrorist financing. So the global compliance body is looking closely at virtual assets. And as mentioned, Mauritius has already set the legal framework in place to regulate that space. Third, we also see more than 100 central banks around the world are considering the issuance of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. So in 2023, over 20 other countries were taking steps towards piloting their CBDCs. And finally, we see large corporates, the likes of PwC, Tesla, Starbucks, Microsoft, and Emirates, who are accepting cryptocurrencies as a medium of exchange. So they're accepting crypto in terms of payments from their clients. So when we put everything together, we see a global virtual asset wave. And this is where we believe that businesses cannot afford to lag behind. In terms of opportunities, again, when we look at the opportunity for Africa now, we believe there is a real potential to unlock that true potential that the continent represents. For instance, if we could optimize on the core attributes of the continent, by 2050, it is estimated that 1 in 4 people on the planet will reside on the continent. And we all know that Africa is endowed with natural resources, including minerals, oils, and gases. It is also home to some of the world's fastest growing economies. That is in terms of the opportunities within the continent, the attributes of the continent. Now, if we take a look at the emerging technologies, can we leverage on those emerging technologies to tap into the potential that Africa represents? For instance, the use of technology could provide innovative financial services. We could reach underserved populations. We could reduce transaction costs, as well as create new job opportunities. Moving on to the third. So we believe that we could harness on Mauritius' reputation as a global international financial center. We all know we are an investment-friendly and comprehensive regulatory framework in line with FATF standards. We have an impressive track record of political stability and sustained economic growth. We are among the most business-friendly countries in Africa, plus our network of DTAs and IPPAs and our competitive fiscal regime, as well as our well-developed legal, banking, and accounting sector. So we believe that we could harness on Mauritius' reputation as a global IFC, again, to tap into that potential that Africa represents. And finally, as mentioned, tapping into the global virtual assets wave I mentioned earlier about the major economies regulating that space, cryptocurrencies being accepted as a medium of exchange, and the volume of crypto trading happening. So all these opportunities that we believe we could tap into to get our offshore sector to the next level. I'll now leave the floor to Jessica to share our vision.
Thank you, Toshak. So this is big picture, what we are thinking. So we are thinking that we could become quite easily the largest FDI conduit for Africa, the exchange center for the region, where we could facilitate cross-border payments, capital raising through proper listings, structured the best possible way, fractionalized using blockchain, making it available to a wider range of investors, exchange and custody of all kinds of assets, securities, non-securities. One of the things as a lawyer, so I've been a lawyer for 21 years now, and one of the things, and I've worked in Africa for quite a while, and one of the things that I have noticed when I had clients of mine trying to raise capital in Africa is because it becomes difficult when you're trying to force asset into very limited structures, like structuring as a security or as a debt. And I really believe blockchain and its utilities allow us to structure assets differently, smaller. You know, we talk about sachetization in Africa, that people invest into smaller things. Blockchain is ideal. It allows us to fractionalize into billions as easily as we would do 100,000 on Excel. And I think these are advantages of the new technologies that we need to use to the advantage, to our advantage, to allow more capital raise to address infrastructure needs, as well as allowing local companies, SMEs, larger ones, to raise capital more easily. Investment banking, insurance, and wealth management. So I think with this whole digital ecosystem, it would become easier to link Africa than it is at the moment. So these are the building pillars of the offshore sector currently. If you look at the bottom part, the gray part, so we talk about Mauritius being, you know, a very good legal system, parliamentary democracy, and it has good separation of powers. We've got a good regulatory framework, be it for securities and now virtual asset. So the Vitus Act regulates virtual asset very clearly, in my view, as a lawyer, very simply, as an umbrella law, which allows a lot of growth and innovation to thrive within. Then you have a banking sector, so most of the big banks are here. Then you have a whole range of DTAs and IPPAs. And finally, you have an ecosystem of service providers, legal, finance, audit, insurance. We also have now reinsurers license on the market, which is also very important to building infrastructure for the region. But the offshore sector 2.0 is what we need to look at to remain relevant and to provide services that would allow more people, more brains to stay or come into the continent. A continent, like Toshak says, is expecting to have 1 in 4 people residing in by 2050. So we can become a leading FinTech hub. We're on the road for it, but I think with the ability to link different African currencies with easier payment, with easier movement of assets, with better structures to capital raise, we could do that from here and with the continent more easily. Sustainable finance and wealth management center, where instead of, for example, being the biggest FDI into a region, being the region where the real business happens, real value is added by the people working within the jurisdiction. So this is what we say, from a tax-friendly to a value-adding jurisdiction. And I think that's very important. If we want more people to stay, more young people to stay, the brain drain is very real. The lack of staff on the market is very real. So if we want better people to stay and we want better people to join us, we need to be thinking, how do we add more value so that we can create more expensive or to be able to sell product at higher prices? So our roadmap, that's you, Toshak, right?
Yeah,
I'll send
correct.
back to Toshak for our roadmap.
Thank you, Jessica. So getting into the more practical aspects of what we believe we could propose as solutions to help move our offshore sector 2.0. The first would be acting as a payment solution, offering a streamlined payment solution for Africa. So one solution that Mindex currently offers is a payment gateway and merchant wallet. So we mentioned about the volume of trading happening. So the number of crypto-rich people looking to spend their crypto. An easy solution could be we include your wallet, so the address to your wallet, which is a QR code, right on your website. And then the client can visit your website, scan the QR code, and submit payment straight to your merchant wallet with a Mindex. So the business operator holds a merchant wallet with Mindex. And then if the merchant wishes, he could exchange that crypto payment received from the client and exchange it for fiat or other crypto as required. So this is an immediate solution that could be provided to prospective business operators, whether in Mauritius or in Africa, and by leveraging on the solution, payment solution that Mindex provides. So once the payment is received, there is an instant notification of a payment receipt, whether by email or SMS. Then the client is aware that a payment has been credited to his wallet, and then he can do the necessary to provide the service, whatever category of business we are. And then, as mentioned, if required, that particular business, it may choose to hold the crypto, or it could also get Mindex to exchange it for fiat money. So this is the first solution that we have immediately available that could be used by businesses in Mauritius, in Africa, to start tapping into that crypto liquidity that we mentioned earlier. Now, second aspect where we believe we could position Mauritius as a wealth center, Jessica mentioned that we believe we have the right attributes to be seen as the wealth hub for Africa. One angle that we see would be to collaborate with commercial banks to become a wealth hub for Africa. So we all know commercial banks are already custodying fiat currency. But now if we add Mindex to that ecosystem, Mindex being a regulated platform for virtual assets, and virtual assets could be deemed as any representation of value. So it could be real estate, it could be commodities, traditional securities that could be custodied on Mindex. If a virtual assets service provider and a commercial bank join forces, so we could tap into a network of high net worth individuals through the solutions provided by our offshore sector. So GBCs, authorized companies, trusts, foundation funds, to custody their assets in Mauritius, choosing to custody their wealth in Mauritius. So this is a solution that, again, is immediately available, where we could collaborate with commercial banks and the virtual asset service provider to custody any type of assets within Mauritius. Moving on to the third category. So another solution immediately available would be sending money across Africa. So Mindex Exchange offers the possibility of exchanging African local currencies into hard currencies in the likes of USD and GBP using our crypto rails, right? So business operators on mainland Africa can thus perform seamless FX exchange using Mindex regulated infrastructure. So let's say tomorrow there's a supplier in Kenya and there's a purchaser in South Africa looking to procure the services of a Kenyan operator. So as we all know, we have to get currency exchange. So from Kenyan currency into USD and USD into ZAR. So a lot of exchange cost, time factor. But with our solution, this could, we offer a seamless solution as well as a cost-effective solution where such payments across Africa could happen in a seamless fashion. And now we are proud to announce that we are offering 18 currencies at the moment. So 18 African currencies that we could exchange and to send money across Africa. Moving on, coming to our securities exchange and our virtual asset marketplace. So the range of listing solution that Mindex can provide under these two licenses would be security token offering, commonly known as IPO in a traditional finance language. So we call it a security token offering. That would be the issuance of traditional securities under the Securities Act, namely shares, debentures, bonds, rights and warrants, treasury bills. So traditional securities that could be issued on Mindex exchange. But on top of this, under our virtual assets marketplace license, we could also help our issuers raise capital through an ITO, so an initial token offering, and that would be under the VITOS Act, where any digital representation of value can be traded and transferred for investment purposes. So let's take the case of a mine, the mining industry, for instance. If you imagine the range of assets that we could tokenize and list and make available for investment to our retail as well as sophisticated investors. So you could potentially list the mineral reserves, could list the extraction rights, pre-sale tokens, the PPE, plant and equipment, as well as streaming financing and royalties. So within the same Mindex ecosystem, you could list on the left side of the screen traditional securities, but as well as innovative ways of raising capital by listing the assets itself, listing a mine itself on Mindex, and offer the opportunity to purchase an asset itself rather than going for traditional securities. The range of solutions that are currently available makes it very interesting. So we can be innovative here in terms of capital raising and really potentially positioning Mauritius as an innovative center to raise capital for projects in Africa. Right. So at the moment, there are a range of off-the-shelf tokens that are already available on Mindex exchange. So currently we offer around 50 cryptocurrencies that investors might be interested to get into. We also offer Fortune 500 stocks, the likes of Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. We also can offer UK equities. We're also tokenizing holiday packages that we can offer to our investors. And we are very working closely to get real estate assets listed on Mindex, as well as stable coins and digital gold tokens. So at the moment, I don't know if you can see, this is a gold coin that has been minted by one of the potential clients that we're going to be tokenizing gold coins and offer digital coins on Mindex. And the actual gold coin is held in a vault, in a secure vault. So this could offer exposure to investors around the world to gold without having to physically procure gold and custody vault in their own locker facility. You can have a digital version of it and use it for investment on Mindex. So this is a solution that is already available on Mindex. And finally, another solution that could be of interest would be tokenized funds. So we've all seen how the fund industry has evolved over the years, from mutual funds to ETFs, and now the third generation of funds that is gaining momentum is tokenized funds. So a range of benefits if we use blockchain technology to provide a tokenized fund. The structure remains the same with general partners and limited partners with a fund manager, and the fund manager responsibility being investment strategy, market research, portfolio decisions, regulatory compliance. So traditional fund manager role, but using technology to provide a more seamless investment experience through tokenized funds. So these are basically the range of practical solutions that Mindex is already offering that could be of interest to our investors. Thank you.
Thank you, Toshak and Jessica, for this presentation. Allow me to step in here just to go over the poll that we launched at the start of our webinar. We did sprint through a little bit through our presentation here today, and I'm sure our audience has been learning a lot. With regards to the results, I'm going to close the poll now so you can all see the results as well. We can see that our audience is interested in learning about some regulations around the virtual asset space. We do have some questions that came in as well. And if I can share just in a few words, key takeaways from your presentation here, we understand that there's huge potential in the virtual asset space, for which Mindex is offering a regulated infrastructure to channel opportunities. And virtual assets can allow for a deeper access to financial services for communities across the continent, be it via more affordable money transfers. Congratulations on now accepting 18 different currencies in this respect. This is a huge deal. And be it at retail or institutional opportunities. So that for me, just to round up a little bit on the presentation before we head into the questions. And I again welcome members of the audience to drop in your questions in the Q&A. We'll take them. We have some time ahead of us. First question we have received is, what is the latest virtual asset wave in Mauritius? To Jessica and
Toshak. Good question. I mean, we have more volume of business outside Mauritius. So I know we say we work very much in Africa, and we set up to service and address a lot of African issues that we've seen and that we think blockchain can help. Regulated blockchain applications can help. But we have clients from all over the world. And I think I will add one thing before kind of just answering this question. It is that Mindex is a securities exchange, as we've explained, but it's a recognized exchange by HMRC in the UK. So it forms part of the list of 50 exchanges in the world, the biggest of them, London Stock Exchange, ASE, NASDAQ, and all of the big ones. Mindex is the first digital exchange in the world to join that list. So if you go on the HMRC website, it will consider our security tokens, debt tokens as securities and debt. So that's very important because it opened the doors to way bigger than Africa. So we say now Africa and beyond, so that's the first one. The second thing is we also have partnerships with securities exchange, but all digital, because what we think is the digital will allow easier connections and movement of assets and create more liquidity, which is the ultimate game of any exchange, still have more liquidity on it. So we've partnered with an exchange in the US, in Singapore, in South Africa, and we're in discussions with one in Europe as well. So we hope to be able to close that soon. So basically it means you list in Mauritius and we list you in more sophisticated jurisdictions. So we're very, very proud and happy of those connections. And I think the reason for it is the team here. So I'm a lawyer. And Toshak is an ex-Big Four, a chartered accountant. So we're very much financial services people using tech. Obviously, we've got a CTO, we've got tech expertise, we've got access to it, but it is very much a financial services using tech. So the question you're asking, I think the obvious answer at the moment, since the election of Trump and all the hype, is that crypto is going up aggressively at the moment, Bitcoin, but also altcoins as well. So we see more interest, more questions, more people asking how can we invest. And yes, Mindex can allow you to buy and custody, but I would, again, recommend caution, recommend educating yourself to know what you're getting into, invest as much as you're ready to lose, because as much as it goes up, it can come down. I think one of the brokers, very, very experienced brokers that we work with in Europe sent us a message this morning saying Bitcoin is very whippy, and we were looking at the meaning of that word, which is, it moves all the way. So everybody's watching. Yes, it's going up. Yes, it's worth considering, watching, learning about it, but jumping with investments that, means too much to someone is not something we would recommend.
Thank you for that. Second question to follow up on this. what opportunities are there for SMEs in the virtual asset space?
I'll take that, sure. So the traditional exchanges in the world are made, and the bigger ones, they are made for the bigger players. Listing costs a lot of money. The bigger listings are supported by the biggest brokers, So the smaller companies, the SMEs, traditionally listings are difficult. So we know some exchanges have tried to create the smaller exchanges within the larger exchanges to help them raise capital, but those have not been hugely successful. And again, it's because of liquidity. So the returns on SMEs might be less. There might be more risk. It's sometimes focused on one founder, so there are more risks. So the traditional exchange model has not been built or operate to really support SMEs. The way Mindex is built using fractionalization, because of the ability that blockchain gives us, it makes it easier for SMEs to list. We are cheaper. We want to access a wider range of people within the continent and elsewhere. There is the ability to join various SMEs in a similar sector or different sectors together to play and create more investable bundles or products. So we invite brokers to look at the solutions that we have and to build models that could support SMEs better. So that is why we say Mindex is not a product. It's not just an exchange. It's an ecosystem and a solution so we can do better and address gaps. We look at gaps. We say that we are purpose-driven innovation, and that's why we say that. We want to address issues and try to find innovative solutions for them. The second thing I'd say is payments. So, if you look at intertrade in Africa and intertrade in Europe, and Asia in comparative. So I think in Europe it is 60%, in Asia it is 70%. These are figures of IMF, whereas in a trade between African countries at 15%. And the reason is it's because payment is so difficult. It is expensive. It is slow. IMF recognizes that that's one of the blocks that prevents trade between them. And we say all of this, and we cannot forget the dearth of foreign currency. No dollars on the market. So these things are crucial. So with these new models, easier payment, but also asset swaps becomes easier. And these are the new models that aim at increasing intra-Africa trade, and it will benefit SMEs for sure.
Thank you for that. We will proceed to the next question. Is blockchain and virtual assets tax-free at the moment?
So blockchain is not tax. Like blockchain is a solution. Depends what you're using it for, right? So the taxes are what? Income tax or capital gains tax, or they're taxes, right? So it depends what you're doing with it. So if you are doing business and you're trading, I think crypto trading is what they're saying. So what came out in the budget, I'm not sure if it's in the Finance Act. It's not.
There's no
Capital gains, there's none in Mauritius anyway. So there's no capital gains tax. So if you're keeping for a long time for capital gains, there isn't. If you're trading, so what the last budget said is that if you're trading crypto the same way you trade securities, as an investment, there's no tax, So that's at the moment the model that is being applied in Mauritius. And the same thing would apply not just to cryptos, but ITOs, so real world asset. So if it's an investment listed on a regulated exchange, the same no tax on investment would apply. Is that right?
Answers your question. Thank you for that, Jessica. We have a few questions and comments from Paulina. And Paulina, I think we'll give you the permission to talk as well if you would like to ask your questions directly to Jessica and Toshak here. Paulina is a P2P bank in South Africa with an entity in Mauritius looking to partner for cross-border payments. So there might be collaborative opportunities.
Absolutely.
Hi, Paulina.
Hi, thank you so much. Very good presentation. Very well put together. So yeah, basically we're just I'm interested obviously in the regulatory side of things. I need to understand a little bit the how the source of funds are reported. And maybe if you could walk me through how it actually works fiat to fiat. So let's say we have a Nigerian client that wants to transfer money, because we also have an entity in Nigeria, a Nigerian client with a bank account in Nigeria that would like to pay a supplier in Dubai. So from fiat to fiat, what's the flow, including last leg disbursement? Because that often is, we all know blockchain's fabulous in terms of how fast it is. It's the last leg that kind of things go screeching a little bit to a halt. So I'm keen on that, on how that works and maybe what corridors you support.
Yeah. So very good questions. Thank you very much for the compliment. It's a difficult field, so we try to pull it together to make it as simple as possible. I think your question about due diligence is important to answer. So as you know, a virtual asset, we apply the travel rule. So basically we work very much like a bank. So we accept that we do more. So as a bank, they would do KYC, KYT, KYB. So we add to this wallet and crypto and smart contract vetting. So basically, whenever an asset, a crypto asset hits our ecosystem, so a third-party wallet hits our ecosystem, we will vet that wallet ongoing for as long as it remains within our ecosystem. So we, as you know, the crypto as well, you can follow it from source, so you can know where it's come from. So you can actually assess your risk to the dollar. So let's say there were, you need to look at crypto due diligence as a mind map, as opposed to a linear vetting, right? So we would be able to know every wallet it's dealt with and look at the crypto flows. So it could have an exposure to a wallet because there would have been transactions and transactions between wallets and wallets and wallets, So we are very serious about due diligence. So we've advised governments, we've advised institutions on due diligence. We work with the biggest players. We work with Chainalysis. We work with control risk. So the real asset and the crypto asset. And we know them personally. It's not just kind of we're using a tech. We have access to these people for the protection of more than just Mauritius. We believe that if we make this, and it's very cross-border, and what we do, it moves so fast and large volume, it is important that we talk to each other and report matters and look at matters in a collaborative way to identify risk. 95% of wallets out there at the moment are, if you want, unregulated, and they're getting regulated, So it will take some time to get there, but we need to work together to address risks. But we've been banked on the local market for, 2 years now. We've had no issues. We've had off-site inspection by the regulators, on-site inspection. We've had compliance reviews. We've had financial reviews and audits. So it's not been easy. It is not easy to be a regulated player. But I would say that we are backed by very strong outside players as well to manage the risks, and we haven't seen large issues so far, and issues that we have seen have been cleared and stuff. So we're very comfortable with that. And the travel rule is very much what the bank does. So who's the money coming from, and where's the money going to, and do you have the reason for the transfer? It's very logical. It moves faster, it's larger volume, and it moves differently, but it's the same rules that apply. So in terms of your second question, Paulina, can I move to your second question?
Yes, it would be great if you could just send me, because obviously just as a regulated entity, for example, in South Africa, for cross-border payments, we need to pass the underlying source of funds. So we would be then transferring funds onto an exchange. With that exchange, would we be opening up, for example, so I know it might be a little bit too detailed, but would we be opening up a wallet in our name or directly in the third-party client's name that is now transferring money from their account? Because from their view, they're just transferring money through new rails from South Africa, let's say, to Dubai. We want to make it as simple for them as possible. How do we bounce the money now through a wallet in Mauritius? Report to South Africa that the funds have flown to Mauritius, moved to Mauritius, the reason for those funds, the source of funds, and then ultimately then to Dubai. Maybe that wasn't the best example because Dubai is quite an open market, but maybe let's choose another one like Kenya. And how would that work? So if you have, maybe the rest of people here might not be as interested. So if you could send me like a diagram on how that would work, maybe we could organize a offsite call about it. But yeah, you can move on to the next question because yeah.
Yeah, I was going to step in here. Thank you, Paulina. So I think we will be able to facilitate the connection between you both, and you can fully develop on those questions further. I hope this helped. Moving on to the next question, as we have a few attendees as well waiting.
Yes. Yeah, I'll move to the second
Thank
question.
you, Paulina.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The second question is, so I think you were asking, what was the question again?
Money
about sending money across. Okay, so you're saying fiat to fiat, yeah. So basically we use crypto rails, so the money will come out of fiat into crypto, out of crypto into fiat again. So it will move through crypto rails. So the way that we on-ramp and off-ramp, we use regulated players everywhere. We firmly believe that the way to grow is to use other tried and tested and vetted third-party regulated players everywhere. So we've built a network of players in Africa and beyond where we can on-ramp and off-ramp. So we do all the major currencies, so your dollar, your euro, your GBP. You know, we've been doing FX for banks as well because we've got large volume capabilities through crypto rails. We're not the cheapest, but as the volumes increase, costs might also go down, but we have the ability to huge volume exchange. So like as I think I said it before, but fiat into crypto, crypto into crypto, crypto then into fiat whenever you need it. So then we use rails and regulated players, and we on-ramp and off-ramp into banks and out of banks, and hopefully soon into cards and out of cards.
So just to add on this, Paulina, all the questions that you're asking, for us, those are good questions, right? That we'd love to answer. We could probably take this conversation after this webinar, probably on a case-to-case basis for a particular client that you have. And then we can give you the detailed process of how it works, and then we can take it forward.
Okay, fabulous. I will drop my email, and then you could just reach out to me directly in the Q&A under private.
Sure, will do. Yeah.
Next question we have on the list here is, can crypto be exchanged on the Mindex exchange? Is there a wallet to download, and are there fees associated?
Yes. So yes, we currently support around 50 cryptocurrencies. We already have different cryptos under our custody for different clients, both retail and institutional. So the next step would be to onboard on Mindex. There is a link that we could send, as well as a video, which explains the process to onboard on Mindex. And then once your wallet is open, you can pre-fund your wallet and start purchasing the cryptos of your choice. Yeah.
Perfect. The last one from go ahead, Jessica.
No, I was just saying this reinforces what Paulina was saying earlier. We are a regulated player. So you can have unregulated players out there where you can do click and change something. And we see a lot of people doing that. And then they're unable to get the cryptos out into fiat, into money, into banking system. So we do due diligence on everything. We know who our clients are. We've got the capabilities that Toshak said, and it might look harder, but it's an end-to-end solution, and you're protected and we are regulated. So I think this is very important to say. Sometimes people say, oh, you're more complex than other players out there. There is a reason for it. And I would like to stress that it's important to understand the reason and to understand that it is safer for everyone if that process is followed.
Thank you for that. One last question we have on here from Javesh is, how do banks in Mauritius fit in the virtual assets ecosystem?
Can I leave that to you?
Sure. Thank you for this question. I think there's a beautiful synergy that we can develop with the commercial banks in Mauritius. As Jessica mentioned, we already banked in Mauritius, so we already have developed working relationship with the banks. The good news is that we're already collaborating on some clients already. So when we go to clients, we go as a one-stop solution, both for traditional banking solutions, but on top of this, virtual asset solutions. So yeah, I think there's some, as you can see on the screen, let's say there's a high net worth who'd like to have a diversified portfolio of assets. So traditionally, he could custody part of his cash with a bank, but on top of this, having a Mindex wallet allows him to own shares, tokenized shares, part of a tokenized fund, tokenized real-world assets, as well as cryptocurrencies. And then anytime he wants to cash out, so sell out a particular asset and transfer the funds to his bank account. So this is, again, an immediate solution. So you imagine the way we are transforming investments here by collaborating closely with banks, atomic swaps happening within seconds, cross-border payments happening within minutes. So yeah, definitely room for collaboration with commercial banks, and it's already happening. Yeah.
I hope this answered your question, Javesh. Another one came through. Why are gas fees so high for crypto, and how many banks so far have adopted virtual assets as daily transactions routine? Do you have those information?
I mean, how many banks in the world? I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say. And I think what we can tell you is we're fully banked by very traditional banks on the ground.
Banks in Mauritius.
Yes, correct. So we're banked by 2 banks here. We're banked by a bank overseas. So we're banked. Now, you have banks that would have jurisdictional choices. So they might choose to bank regulated players from this area, you know. VASP and CASP licenses are coming out. So more and more regulated players are coming out. So it's impossible to say generally, you know. Some banks are, like Standard Chartered is incredibly virtual asset friendly. They've opened their own custodian, digital custodian in UAE. They've partnered with a crypto player in England. So they're very crypto proactively player, we will say. So I think more and more banks are coming into the space. I still believe that there needs to be players separate from banks as well, so that we get the best of all worlds in that space to service and fill all gaps that are different. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you for this, Jessica. This was our last question. So just to wrap things up a bit here, we are hosting this webinar on the themes of how virtual assets are the key to offshoring the Mauritian global business sector. So maybe some last questions from my side, and to end on this note here. As Mauritius is set to transition towards a 2.0 this offshore sector, what would you say to management companies, how they can position themselves to attract international clients interested in tokenized funds, securities, or the digital asset offering via a solution like Mindex?
That's a very good question, because it's the looking forward question, which is what we like. So Toshak will give you a more deeper probably rundown than me, but what I'll say is use it, test it, and you will see. I mean, I got obsessed with it for years now. I'm so obsessed with it. I was called Jessica Token for a little while in Mauritius, you know. And if you look at the movement of funds, and let's say you're moving $1 million from Africa into Mauritius, it can take 2 to 3 days. You're moving from Mauritius to Europe, it can take 2 hours. You're moving $1 million in USDC or USDT, the most liquid of stablecoins. That's, if you are doing things with multi-wallet approval, you're talking 5 minutes. You know, that's the speed at which it moves, and it moves securely. So I think what I would say to offshore management companies is open wallets and use it is 1. 2, I would say at the moment, the volume of trade is at what, 200 billion per 24 hours. To not look at it is a mistake. You must at least look at it because it's that number of people trading in this asset. And when you tell them, oh, change your money, go into fiat, and then you can use it for real world asset or to use my services, is not looking at an ever increasing class of people using virtual asset and stable coin and stuff like this. The third thing I would say is look at very innovative new things that other jurisdictions are aggressively looking at, like tokenization of fund. So the UK is talking about it, and yet they don't have a full-fledged licensed player like Mindex that could facilitate it for you overnight. And it's a crazy thing to think that you can do things in Mauritius that you can't do in more sophisticated jurisdiction. It's mad, and yet it is the truth. And the reason it happened is, first and foremost, the law and the legal framework allowed it. And that's why we headquartered here and were able to be well ahead of the curve in setting up a tried and tested system. Now, we are not new. We've been live for over 2 years now. We've done in excess of $50 million of transaction on the domestic market. So I think try it, test it, reach out to us. We have a very, very collaborative approach to everything we do. We believe in win-win. So I think I've said that. I was asked to comment in an article in Business Magazine recently, and they said, what about the cost of doing crypto in Mauritius and doing crypto elsewhere? And I was saying, even if it might be a little bit cheaper there because they're not as severely regulated and it doesn't cost as much to move because our banking costs are higher. If we all collaborate and do more business on the ground and make this a working, secure system, we will attract more players to us. So we're looking at working together to build a play that supports all of us. And I would say even in the shorter term and not looking very far. So I think all of this means we're very open to collaboration. We've acquired quite a lot of knowledge. We've made our mistakes. And we're that's why we're doing the type of webinars that we're doing today, because we're open for business and we're open for collaboration.
That is a great message. I would like to reinforce that into the members of the audience. So to follow up and to get in touch with Mindex, to explore opportunities and collaborations in this space. Thank you again, Jessica and Toshak, for your presence today, for this insightful presentation. I would like to thank everyone in the virtual room as well for joining us. I really hope that the virtual asset as well is a bit more clearer for everyone here. We will be uploading the recording for this webinar in the coming days on our YouTube as well. We will be following up as well with an email. So happy to make any introductions. If anybody in the room or online would like to get in touch with Mindex, please feel free to reach out to us. So on this note, I would like to thank everyone. I would welcome you to stay connected and stay tuned for future events. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.